Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Allison's Corner. Of course, I am your host, Allison, and today's episode feels both personal and collective because we're diving into the rise of Black luxury. Some of you might remember a past episode called The Soft Life, where I shared why I'm choosing softness in all areas of my life, especially as a Black woman. And if you haven't been able to listen to the episode, I highly recommend you go ahead and take a chance to do so because it's really informative about what we are also going to be speaking about today. So, in today's topic, we're just going to zoom out a little bit because this isn't just about personal shifts, but about collective movements. We're talking about why so many Black people are now choosing to move beyond survival mode and are embracing luxury, not just as a material pursuit but as a form of healing, self worth, and reclaiming space in areas that were designed to exclude us. So, we're going to be unpacking what Black luxury really is, the power of ownership, and yes, even some critiques about this movement. So, go ahead, settle on in, pour yourself a glass of something refreshing tea, wine, iced coffee, whatever your vibe is today, and let's get into this conversation about Black luxury. So, I have to start off by being transparent. I didn't grow up with any money, or not any, but not much. Okay. Applebee's and Chili's were considered fine dining for us. And honestly, we loved it. We knew when special occasions took place, that is exactly where we were headed. And with that, we have been able to, grow from those humble beginnings to now. And of course, when we were at Chili's or Applebee's, we were sharing appetizers, maybe ordering dessert. My parents weren't big on the whole ordering dessert because, you had to watch it, but still, we had fun. And in high school, I remember I went to a Title I school. For those of you who don't know, that means more than half of the student population was on free or reduced lunch. So we weren't necessarily struggling every day, but we definitely weren't thriving economically either. And it wasn't until college that I kind of started to notice luxury in a different light. I went to school in South Georgia, far from the big city energy of Atlanta that I grew up in. And that's where I first heard names like Lily Pulitzer and Tory Burch, brands I had never even known existed. And those brands felt so out of reach, but also at the same time, completely irrelevant to my life. And after graduation, I, of course, started work and I started to earn my own money. And I found myself slowly accessing experiences that I never had growing up. It was the first time I could buy certain things, treat myself, and even more importantly, treat my parents because I can now take them to restaurants that they had never considered stepping foot in, despite those same restaurants being right in their backyard. And that to me is a form of luxury. But I do want to make one thing very, very clear. Luxury is not just about money, it's about access, comfort, ease, experience. And when you have been historically excluded from those things, choosing to step into them becomes very powerful. So, right now, I want us to take a minute and just pause here because we actually need to define the word. So I looked it up on Webster, so I'm gonna explain it to y'all, and I have it right here on my screen. It says that luxury is traditionally defined as a state of great comfort or elegance, especially when involving great expense. So in mainstream culture, that can often look like designer fashion, fine dining, private travel, exclusive experiences. But historically, these weren't created with us in mind. And luxury was tied so much to Eurocentric standards and has been built within systems that excluded Black people from benefiting both economically and socially. And I think today, Black people are disrupting that narrative, not just by participating in luxury, but also redefining what it means. Now, here is where I want to make an important distinction. So, conspicuous consumption is about external validation, it's about buying or showcasing things that prove worthiness. And sometimes it's also driven by a need to show success in a world that constantly questions Black achievement. But when we talk about intentional indulgence, that's a little bit different. It's rooted in internal fulfillment. It's about saying, I deserve this because I am worthy, not because I need to prove anything to anyone. And overall, one is performative, but the other is healing. And when Black people move toward intentional indulgence, luxury also transforms from a flex into a form of self care and even resistance. And of course, we have to take a minute because I want to go deeper into the history for a little bit. As we know, after World War II, many white soldiers returned home to GI benefits like affordable housing and access to low interest home loans. But Black soldiers, however, were systemically denied those same opportunities thanks to redlining and discriminatory lending practices. What this meant was that while white families were building generational wealth through home ownership, Black families were locked out. And even today in the job market, we see biased hiring and occupational segregation that limits our economic mobility even further. And all of this has compounded over generations, which has led to the wealth gap that we see today. And so when Black people today choose to step into luxury spaces, it's not just about indulgence, it's more so about reclaiming what has historically been withheld from us. But even with all of those barriers that I just spoke about, Black people have always influenced global trends in fashion and music and beauty. Think of Dapper Dan. He redefined what high fashion was by remixing designer logos into streetwear long before even those luxury houses caught on, right? Madam C.J. Walker, she was America's first self made female millionaire who built a hair care empire for Black women. Luxury is not new to Black people. What's new is that we are now being recognized for it. And I quickly also want to talk about social media and how the role social media has played in accelerating the rise of Black luxury. Because we know, of course, TikTok and Instagram thrives so much on aesthetics. And this has allowed Black content creators to step forward and showcase their version of luxury living. Jackie Aina, who I love, her content is all about elevating beauty and lifestyle. Monet McMichael, Alyssa Ashley, They both blend authenticity with also luxury branding. And even beyond content creators, we even see Black owned brands that are flourishing. Personally, I love Hanifa, love her, okay, or love the brand and the owner. Shout out to, to both. But they're known for their stunning 3D runway shows. I don't know if you caught some of the runway shows that they produced during the pandemic. That was my first time I heard about them, and I have been in love ever since. And they are especially known for being size inclusive while also incorporating their luxury designs. We can even talk about Brandon Blackwood, whose bags are sought after by celebrities and even everyday consumers. Because at the end of the day, these aren't just products, they are also statements. Now, you might have heard of the soft life, which is, of course, we are choosing ease over the hustle. And I've spoken about this in past episodes, but I will always say it again. Choosing softness is revolutionary, especially as a Black woman, because for generations we have been taught to hustle harder, you know, grind longer, and expect less rest. Okay? But luxury in its truest form includes ease, comfort, and wellness. And what it is that you're choosing yourself over struggle, and that too is a part of Black luxury. You know, it's also worth noting that Black women are leading as entrepreneurs. We are the fastest growing group of small business owners in the US. But that does not mean it's easy. I don't know if some of y'all heard the news just this week. We heard about the closing of Ami Coley, a Black owned beauty brand that was unable to secure funding despite having a very strong customer base. The owner herself spoke openly about being denied resources that other founders, who are often white, receive with ease. And her article, which of course was in the cut, go ahead and read it. It's beautiful in the way that she was able to just talk very openly about what happened. It highlights a very frustrating truth that even as Black luxury continues to rise, systemic racism in venture capital and funding remains a major barrier. And many Black women are kind of turning to alternative paths, you know, real estate investing, art collecting, which really quick, Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats, they recently showcased their private Black art collection here at Atlanta at the High Museum. Tens, okay? But I mean, in all seriousness, luxury in these contexts, it's not just about vanity. We want luxury to be about ownership and legacy for the next generation. And even more so, we can talk about Black celebrities that are kind of shifting the luxury narrative. Issa Rae, she is a writer, actress, producer, and investor. Rihanna, she revolutionized the beauty industry with Fenty. Beyonce, a phenomenal performer, and she's expanded her empire through business ventures like Ivy Park, Sacred, her fragrance line, and even now Sir Davis. All of this, okay, means that they are embodying what it means to own your brand, what it means to build wealth, and to redefine luxury on your own terms. But this is where my critique starts to settle in a little bit, okay? Because now comes the complicated part. Who gets included in these luxury conversations? Because too often Black luxury spaces celebrate a very specific aesthetic. You have to be light skinned, you have to have a slim body type, and conventionally attractive features. But who is being policed? Who is being left behind? Luxury must be inclusive, not just of skin tone, but of body size, of gender expression, of economic background. Otherwise, we risk replicating that same exclusive nature that we saw before that shut us out happening again. And what even about class pressure? As Black people, there is this immense pressure to make it, to succeed in white dominated spaces, to climb the ladder, to prove you belong. But the question I want to pose is, can we redefine success for ourselves? Can we embrace luxury not as a performance, but as a personal, nourishing experience? And I really want you to ask, what does that look like for you? For me, luxury is not about a designer label. It's about softness and ease. It's about living intentionally. It's about choosing rest without guilt. It's taking my parents to restaurants they once thought that weren't for us. It's saying, I work to live, I don't live to work. And luxury for me is calling abundance into my life without apology. So, a little bit of a reflection. I want to leave you with this. What does luxury mean to you, and how is it currently reflected in your life? Is it rest? Is it travel? Is it treating yourself to something small? Is it saying no to grind culture? I really want you to take a moment and to just sit with that. And of course, I want to end today's episode with a quote from the iconic fashion stylist La Roche. He said, I am a luxury good. I am a luxury item, and I should be expensive. As always, God bless. Have an amazing day, and thank y'all for listening to Allison's Corner.